You joined me today at the wheel of something rather special, a 10th anniversary Mazda MX5 from 1999. 12 seconds. 12 seconds is how long Mazda reckons you should be able to go from a hard top or closed top to an open top car in an MX5. That and Jinba Itai, horse and rider or car and driver as one, are kind of at the heart of the ethos of the MX5. It's a car that you as a driver become one with, so you're instantly part of the machine or the machine is part of you. And the whole roof thing is just the perfect example of that. You're sitting at the traffic lights, the sun has come out, you can just flick the catches, roof back with one hand, no messing around. By the time the light's gone green, you're in a convertible. Your convertible has converted, I should say. Now this is a Mk2 or NB MX5, and I'm sure you spotted that a mile off because part of the design criteria of both the Mk2 and Mk3, as in the NB and MC versions, was that they had to be recognisable in profile from 100 metres away as an MX5. Now while the Mk2 MX5 is still cute, it's got this fun cuddly face at the front, as you glance down the flanks you'll notice it's a little more taut, a bit more bulbous, more toned and physical looking. It's kind of grown up a bit, got a bit more muscular if you like. And the main thing that you notice at the front, and the big bone of contention back in the 90s, was where have the pop-up headlights gone? Everyone loved the pop-up headlights. Come on. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all is safety legislation. It wasn't going to fly anymore. Everything lost its pop-up headlights at the end of the 1990s. But in addition to that, the engineers were on a quest for lightness, trying to shave as many grams out of this car as they possibly could. And taking out the pop-up headlight mechanisms lost 5.6 kilos from the car. Also saving weight, front and rear, with the new bumpers. They developed a new kind of injection moulding for polypropylene apparently, which saved 2 kilos. Now in case you missed it in the title of the video, this is a 10th anniversary car, 1989 to 1999. This is the very last of the pre-facelift Mk2 cars, and so it got a few extra bits in the spec, notably this badge. Only on one side of the car though, not on the passenger side. And it says here, this is car 2,367 out of 7,500 built. I assume that's worldwide. Now because this was a special occasion, these cars got a few extra bits. First of all, the colour. It's called Innocent Mica Blue. It's a lovely metallic blue, only available on these cars. Then these chrome wheels, very, very American. European spec cars very rarely get chrome wheels because the salt just kills them in about one winter. But American cars seem to like them quite a lot. They're never really caught on over here, but these cars have got them. On the inside, got a few other extra touches as well. So we've got lots of blue stuff, like the blue carpet. We've got these unique blue inserts in the seats. All MX-5s get Nardi steering wheels and gear knobs, but they're not always badged as such. In this case they are, and we've got these unique blue panels in the steering wheel and this unique blue gear gaiter around the gear knob, which leather gear knob and leather gaiter as well. So the interior of the car is functional as well as attractive, but possibly with a little more emphasis on function and lightness from the designers. It is a comfortable and pleasant place to be, but bear in mind everything in here has been designed down to the lightest gram it can. So the rearview mirror has been pared down to as few grams as possible. The sun visors, obviously they fold down and they fold out to the side, so if you've got sun coming in from beside the car you can block them off, but they've only got one little hanger, again saving just a few grams on each side, and it all adds up. So the door card is fairly basic, no added embellishments. Everything you need is here, but the only real decoration is where they've actually had to put in like a trim or a join line. They've used that to create the decoration itself. So we've got our little plastic door handle, our central locking little nub in there, a tweeter at the top, and this little tweeter surround gives you a little bit of sculpture and shape into the top of the door. A mid-range speaker down below, which goes into a door pocket, so again a bit more shape, and the door pull. It's all just black plastic, slightly soft touch, not very soft touch, but you know, soft enough to feel a little bit slightly above the basic. But yeah, tough, but again light. We've got these 4 little tiny round eyeball vents for the blowers. Each one is very small, and each has its own little pressed metal surround, which gives it some decoration and of course is light. I've already mentioned the steering wheel, Nardi steering wheel with horn. Let's check the horn. Yeah, it's quite sports car-y. It's got a bit of like an Italian vibe going on, hasn't it? Quite like that. Two-tone leather, as we said, and with an airbag. There's also a passenger airbag over here, which is something the original NA cars didn't get. The dials are lovely and crisp and clear. The white letters are kind of italicized and they're nice and big and bold, so they're easy to read. Big rev counter, redlining at 7,000 RPM. Big speedo going up to, well, 150 it says there. And the 3 sub-dials for fuel, oil and water temperature are just surrounded in black, so they don't stand out quite so obviously because they're sub-dials. tucked away behind the steering wheel, you have a little very square wing mirror adjustery thing on the left, light adjustments on the right, and a tiny cubby hole, which I have no idea what you put in it. Maybe a pack of chewing gum or something. It's absolutely tiny. In the centre console, we've got our big square digital clock and again another weirdly shaped square cubby cutout hole thing, which is kind of looks too narrow for a phone. This is 1999, so most people aren't going to be rocking mobile phones that will fit in there anyway. So maybe a Motorola StarTAC will go in there, but I don't know what else. Below that, we've got a singled-in radio. I don't know if this is standard or not. As is given this car's history, this may well actually be standard, I don't know. Moving down to heating and ventilation, heating dial on the left, direction on the right, and fan speed, and heated rear window, because this has got a proper solid glass window in the back now. And of course circulate and not recirculate, but no air conditioning. And finally on this little panel here, rear fogs and headlight levelling. I'm not quite sure how much weight you would get in the boot to need headlight levelling, but it's there nonetheless. Oh, and a little 12-volt socket with a lighter in it. Now the rest of the pre-facelift Mk2 MX5's only got a 5-speed manual gearbox. Because this is a 10th anniversary, it jumped the queue and got a 6-speed manual gearbox. So that is rather a nice addition, which is another great reason to go and find yourself a 10th anniversary car. Moving back from the very lovely gear shift, which we'll play with a bit on the road in a moment, we've got a tiny weeny ashtray, the 2 electric front window switches, and a big cubby bin thing here, which contains space for randomly shaped objects, the opening catches for the boot and the fuel gauge, and the single cup holder, the car's only cup holder. Let's do a tea shelf challenge. Right, we have the Furious mug. Okay, that is slack to say the least. That wobbles around an awful lot. I'm not impressed at all with that. With it closed, you do have a fairly good tea shelf in the centre of the car, so you and your passenger could have a little picnic in there. I'm going to go, I've said sushi on previous videos and people have said it's inappropriate. I think it's very appropriate in this particular car. This is ideal for a little sushi place there. You do have a fairly decent tea shelf in the centre. You can wedge a cup here between the screen and your 2 eyeball vents in the top there. That'll hold a cup there. If you ever go to Wagamama and get the small green teacups, they will sit up quite happily. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10 for tea shelfness. In terms of on the road cup holders, I'm giving it like a 1 out of 10 because that's going to go straight over the first corner or break. And that is literally it for the interior of the car. This bonnet is insanely light. It's like it's made of paper or something. Now under the bonnet we find the 1.8 twin cam 16 valve engine, which makes 138 horsepower and 117 pound-feet of torque, and red lines at 7,000 RPM. Interesting, there's a little tag up here which says the car weighs 1,265 kilos, which is pretty light. And finally we've got the boot, which is not the biggest boot in the world because it's a roadster. There's a little kind of dip down cubby hole on the left hand side, and there's a spare wheel, got a nice blue tonneau cover here, and some information about the car itself. The MX5 10th anniversary, 10 years of fun it says. Time flies, it's hard to believe the MX5 is celebrating its 10-year anniversary already, but it's true. 500,000 sold worldwide. Oh, here we have the spec of it, 1.8 S model plus, unique innocent blue mica paint, 6-speed manual transmission, ABS, dual airbags, interior chrome trim on speedometer and tachometer, blue soft top, 15-inch polished alloy wheels, Nardi leather steering wheel, carbon fibre effect console trim, black leather and blue suede look interior, blue carpets and anniversary mats. That is this car that we are currently looking in the back of right now. Now this car does come with a lot of history. Oh look, more stuff. Happy birthday MX5, 1899, 10 days of fun at your local dealer, 22nd to 31st of May 1999. Wow, this is all exciting stuff. Now this particular car does come with an enormous amount of history. You may actually recognise it if you've read up on MX5s lately, because this used to be Mazda UK's press car, the Heritage Fleet car. And so here we have the full log of every job that's been done to it over the past few years. Every time a journalist borrowed this car, it went back into the garage and went through a full inspection, and anything, and I mean anything, that wasn't 100% was changed on it. So this is a car with a certain degree of pedigree on it. And you'll notice now we're on the road that the camera has reverted to the windscreen mount position, as it often does in convertibles, because you can't put a camera on the side window of a convertible, it just wobbles too much. Hopefully you'll get a good enough view of what's going on from that. now we are on the road, I can really appreciate all the work that went into making this car as light and as nimble as it is. Now, the chief designer on this car was a chap by the name of Kiyoshi Hayashi, which I'm sure ruined the pronunciation of that name. Now, he has gone on record as saying there was no conceptual difference between the NA and NB versions of the MX5. So in spirit, this should still be identical or as close to the original drive of the original car as possible. So even though they've had to make changes, they've had to update to safety and emissions legislation, which is always changing in the car world. I mean, that's something I often sort of read in the comments and hear people say at car meets, why can't they make things like such and such anymore? Well, the world moves on. You've got to have airbags, you've got to have crash structures, you've got to have all kinds of other stuff, emissions regulations, and you just can't do that kind of stuff ad infinitum forever and ever. Either they'll get legislated out of existence or people will just stop buying them. So the Mark II car has got twin airbags, which adds weight to the car. But having done things like taking 2.5 kilos out of the seats, that makes up for it. This car is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. Check out the website and the link below and have a look at it, because it is fantastic, and so is their other stock. Now we're on a back lane B-road thingy at the moment, and this car is absolutely in its element. It feels so small around me, it feels like I'm wearing the car. The steering is rack and pinion, so it's lovely and sharp. And it's got independent double wishbone suspension all round, so the car just flows over the bumps and imperfections in the road, of which there are many. And with, obviously power assisted discs all round and ABS, the thing just stops instantly, swinging it hard into this junction here, into the first gear, and away we go again. I'm not redlining this at all. I'm sort of changing gear between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, and the car is just flying. It's one of those cars that doesn't need to be lightning fast, because the experience more than makes up for the actual physical acceleration. We've kind of settled on a below the speed limit speed, and the car still feels like we're sailing along really fast. The engine, being Japanese, is faultlessly reliable, but it's not the most sonorous. It's not like an Alpha Twin Spark that you will just rev in third just to hear the bark and the growl. It's not that kind of engine. It just delivers power smoothly, cleanly, lovely, smooth torque range. It's a pretty linear torque curve, really. And it delivers it nicely through a Torsen limited slip diff as well, so it puts the power down very well, because there's not a lot of weight in the back of the car, so it could be quite a messy experience pulling away. But this does not mess around, it puts the power down and goes. Oh, and this gearbox is a wonderful thing. It's beautifully light. This stubby little gear shift barely fits in your hand. It's just a little fingertip thing. If you hit the gear change at exactly the right moment, it just goes through kind of butter smooth on your fingertips. Otherwise, there's a slightly mechanical feel to it. Not a bad feeling at all. It's kind of an engaging thing, really. Brakes bite, the car just flows a little as it lifts in the rear corner. All the time, all four wheels just talking to you through the seat of the chair. You can just feel everything. It's fantastic. When they talk about a driver's car, it doesn't come more true than this. Even though you're not flying along at illegal speeds, you're so involved, and you really could push this to some quite epic speeds if you wanted to. Well, epic, rapid speeds. You could push it to some rapid speeds if you wanted to. I think the main camera's just fallen off the windscreen. Now, on some car websites, there's a standing joke that whatever the car question is, the answer is always MX5. And you can kind of see why when you drive one. Now, my wife is really not particularly into cars, hates most of mine, but as always said, the one car she's not going to moan about me getting, apart from a Mini because she quite likes Minis, is an MX5. The trouble is, I would want a ropey project I could build on the driveway, and she'd want something shiny like this that she could actually just get in and drive. Oh god, the suspension is quite hard, and it is jittering the camera down into the footwell every few minutes. Because these half leather and fake suede seats are so comfy. You kind of sink into the suedey bit, it just grips you lovely. And the seating position is so good. You're low down in the car. I mean, really, really low down. But you've got a great view out in there, especially with the roof off. Now, I'm not really a convertible kind of person. I'm very much more a roof up, aircon kind of person. But even I can appreciate this experience in this car. It's fantastic. I don't want to give this car back. I could drive this thing all day. All the controls are in exactly the right place. The steering wheel is perfectly placed in front of you. The gear shifter is right where your left hand is, and that little short throw is just fabulous. And you can just feel how big the car is around you. I've said it before, you're wearing the thing, not driving it. And these control stalks, they look a bit weird with the kind of little up-bent part of the metal stick, but it does put them exactly in the right place for your fingers to just tap onto. Indicators and lights on the left, and windscreen wipers on the right. And you can't ignore the build quality of these things as well. This car's done 75,000 miles over the last 21 years, or 74,790. And it feels as tight as anything. It feels like a brand new car. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's drive out in a rather special MX5. There are plenty of Mark II NB MX5s out there, but not many 10th anniversary ones. It's always interesting when you drive a heritage fleet press car, think about who else has driven this car, what other reviews are out there that I could find, and with recognisable faces at the wheel, either the print journalists who I may have met in the past, or TV or internet bods. Has this car been on Car Throttle? Has Clarkson or May been at the wheel? The clutch is a little heavy, not painfully so, but enough to give it a bit of weight and a bit of feedback so you can kind of feel what you're doing. Certainly a car that benefits from wearing harder soled shoes in, with less give in the soles, then you can feel more what the car's doing. This thing is such a great car to drive. I've loved every minute of it. I know I often say I really want to keep this car and take it home, but I really want to keep this car and take it home. This is fantastic, and it's one of the few times I wouldn't get shouted at for doing it either. Oh wow, an AE86. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, as always, share on your Facebook groups and what have you. If you want to help the channel out and look good in doing so, buy yourself a sticker or a t-shirt or a mug, or become a channel member or Patreon. Well, thanks for watching, and join me again very soon in something completely different.